Aviation footprint itself is much less. Of Indian aviation footprint is much less in terms of carbon dioxide equivalent. India is having the potential of emerging as a global exporting hub of SAF. So we have great competitive edge once we set up this.
So currently we are joined by Dr. SSV Ramakumar, who is the Director R&D of IOCL. Sir, we saw the presentation and we got to know a lot of insights on the current event that is going on, that is sustainable fuel, that is SAF. And I just wanted to ask the sustainable point of that sustainability. I know it's a very layman question to ask, but the audience would want to know that when we are talking about the sustainable aviation fuel, so the blending point, how will that be actually sustainable to create an ecosystem, and what are the logistics that we are actually talking about here?
See, it's a good question. In fact, what I wanted to say is any mineral-based aviation turbine fluid, the current fluid on which all the flights will fly, whether it is defense or civil aviation, 1 liter of mineral-based aviation turbine fluid, it gives you 3.16 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent. But just take the any sustainable aviation fluid on its own, it will offer only 20% of that emission. So you blend 5% or 10% or 2% of this sustainable aviation fluid. Overall aviation footprint itself is much less. Of Indian aviation footprint is much less in terms of carbon dioxide equivalent. So 10% of going forward by 2030, if we know the projections of our final footprint, aviation footprint, emission footprint at that point of time, I think 10% would give a break-even reduction in emission footprint because of clean burning fuels that we are going to add. If not 100%, just 10% itself will do that, because the only 20% compared to 100% carbon dioxide, take 100 versus 20, that difference is going to give you. And how long it will be, because it's a blended fuel, as long as the flight is flying, it will sustain.
Sir, you also mentioned in your presentation the initiatives that are taken by the Indian Oil Corporation and the kind of roadmap that has been created to provide the facilities to further this initiative. Can you just talk us about that and highlight those points?
So, talking about Indian Oil initiatives, we are working exclusively on the pathway alcohol to jet for producing these synthetic aviation fluids. I call it as synthetic aviation fluids, but they are sustainable aviation fluids. So, our main focus is on utilizing the possibly surplus ethanol that is going to be available in the year 2025 and convert that ethanol into sustainable aviation fluids. Like, there are many pathways which are being talked in this session. For example, used cooking oil to biodiesel, though as a scheme it is available from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, somehow that is not able to take off, and collection of used cooking oil is a challenge. So what we feel is that even this used cooking oil or this ethanol will be diverted into synthetic aviation fluid. So we are going to set up 2 plants. One is a commercial scale plant in Panipat using 3rd generation ethanol. When we say 3rd generation ethanol, our ethanol is not based on either agricultural residue or sugarcane molasses. We are going to convert refinery off gases into ethanol. And so we are converting already a carbon dioxide emission into ethanol, and this ethanol is further converted into synthetic aviation fluids. So when anybody uses our SAF, it's a double carbon recycled SAF, and which is having a life cycle emission reduction of 82% as per our estimate. So this is going to be one of the best, and we are not dependent on the agricultural residue or something.
There was a lot of discussion on the agricultural residues, the
No,
molasses that we have.
any alcohol to jet pathway doesn't distinguish between 1G ethanol, 2G ethanol, or any ethanol can be converted into SAF. So even sugarcane molasses based ethanol or higher alcohols can be converted into sustainable aviation fluid. Second generation ethanol also can be converted. We are going for third generation ethanol.
Sir, also one thing that I noticed in the slide was that electrification, if the furthering of electrification would happen, that part of ethanol would also be directed towards aviation.
Yeah.
So can you just highlight your point of view on this particular? Because again, there's a lot of talk on the EVs that are coming now and the electrification and the process that is happening now. So how would actually that be directed towards aviation?
See, that's the reason why, as the ministry, joint secretary from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas also mentioned, by 2025, there is a mandate that we have to blend 20% of ethanol in gasoline for terrestrial transport, for land-based transport. But as you rightly said, for that you require 1,000 crore liters of ethanol. But if suppose some percentage of this gasoline is getting freed off because of electrification, there is a projection that the first automobile segment on ground that is going to be converted into e-mobility paradigm is the two-wheeler segment. And two-wheeler today consumes 60% of our gasoline. So if that all that gasoline is freed, then all that ethanol is also going to be freed. So this can be even otherwise also, even if it is nothing is freed out. What I mentioned in my presentation is that the projections of ethanol availability by 2025 are 1700 crore liters, whereas what we require for gasoline blending is only 1000 crore liters. So 700 crore liters of ethanol is anyway surplus, and e-mobility may add up those figures. So there is enough feedstock to produce sustainable aviation fuels. That's the reason why I told that India is having the potential of emerging as a global exporting hub of SAF. Our production cost generally compared to any other geography would be anyway less. So we have great competitive edge once we set up this. So once the mandate from the ministries come, legislative bodies come, probably many more private entrepreneurs also will be enthused to set up these plants.
There will be a public and private partnership
Partnership.
that would see.